You got barbecue back there, and you didn't invite me. Hurt my feelings.
Welcome to Dynasty Theory episode, what are we on now? 278. As you can see, we're changing things up a little bit different this week. I will go into the reason why here shortly. But I'm Mitch Sorensen at DanoMC. I am joined by Dan Lamagna and John Bauer. But Dan, I have a question. Super Bowl is over. Are you fully ready to dive into the Dynasty calendar now? No more of this like DFS Super Bowl stuff. That's all great. You know, you've had your glory, but now it's Dynasty time.
Yeah, after 18 Super Bowl lineups last night and just not quite getting that right combination of 6, I've got no more DFS to study. So now I fully join you boys in the Dynasty streets of film study and working our way up to that April draft. I'm all in.
That's good because, John, I've been looking at your rookie sheet that you have to where you have like every rookie in, I don't know, for the last 10 years or whatever. Are you still updating that now, or is it pretty much done in case anyone wants to take a peek at it?
I've been tinkering with it. Behind the scenes, I had a lot of stuff in there factoring into top 12 and top 24 seasons, but if you look at it now, it's kind of shifted more towards the average points per game over the first 3 years of their career. So Mitch is referencing just kind of an analytical breakdown, if you will, with running backs I have all the way back to 2003. Wide receivers a little bit more recent, but I'm kind of playing around with the calibration of all of that. But I feel pretty good with where it's at right now.
So the reason why I bring this up and the reason why JB isn't in the middle for anyone watching on YouTube, John kind of gets away with being able to hedge a little bit. This is the no hedge show today. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be talking about rookie pick values, but with rookies in those positions with landing spots that we took off of Ray's mock draft. Go and look it up. It's at Ray GQ NFL. On YouTube. It's the one that was posted. It's called Post Super Bowl. It was posted on Monday morning. So we are using that for landing spots so we can look at this player versus this rookie with this pick value. And now the thing is, John has amazing tiers that are part of the DD Fantasy community over at DD Fantasy. The issue is, I picked players on purpose that lined up. So there was a rookie right next to the veteran. But like I said, this is a no head show. So we are going to get fully in the weeds. We are going to make a pick and we're going to go from there. So we're not going to waste time. We'll get into the first one. And we always lead off with quarterbacks. We are changing it up this time. We are leading off with running backs. So Ray in his mock, Cleveland took Cam Ward, number 1 overall. No, sorry, 102 overall, but with their first pick in the draft. With their first pick in the second round, they went TreVeyon Henderson, like an absolute great pick. And so looking at that projected value, we're thinking about between the 104 to the 107 in rookie draft pick value. On the other side, we have Jonathan Taylor, who absolute stud. Performed extremely well, didn't catch a lot of balls, but performed extremely well even with Anthony Richardson at quarterback. So Dan, we're going to go to you first. You have to pick. You have to choose one side or the other. Are you going with the young stud that everybody's falling in love with Henderson, or are you going with the proven production with Jonathan Taylor?
This is such a fun show already tonight because for the listeners, I had no clue that JB and Mitch were lining up this change of, you know, it feels like Dirty Dancing, like Baby got put in the corner. JB is in the corner right now. Nobody puts JB in the corner, but well, JB will speak for himself here shortly. So when I saw this exercise and I looked at the show notes, for me, this one here, based on today, all right, it's only the day after the Super Bowl. I'm on the Jonathan Taylor side. I don't have TreVeyon Henderson as high as it feels like we're projecting here based on that recent mock draft. I have some other running backs higher, but Jonathan Taylor's way higher in my rankings. And I know, like, running backs, we get concerned around the age 30. He's only 26. I feel comfortable with him on my roster for the next 4 years, and that's enough for me right now. So it's JT all the way for me. I watched some Ohio State this year. I like Henderson. As we mentioned, I'm just coming off DFS, so I'm going to watch a lot more Henderson film in the upcoming weeks here. But based on where I'm at today, JT all the way for me, and it's an easy one.
Yeah, I figure you would go in that direction, to be honest with you. John, on the other hand, I know he's a TreVeyon fan.
I do like TreVeyon, and yes, it's no surprise that Dan is definitely leaning a little more veteran-centric, even though, we know that Dan builds his rosters in a more win-now approach. When you go through and you look at players like TreVeyon Henderson, there is a lot of growing hype. And I think that hype is going to continue as we head into these next few months. We head into the NFL Combine. We have a landing spot based on Ray's mock, like you said, Cleveland Browns. TreVeyon Henderson is an extremely efficient back. Extremely efficient. You look at what he was able to do in comparison to Quinshon Judkins here in 2024. I actually do lean Jonathan Taylor still. I know he's 26 years old. I know the receiving upside for the most part, outside of the one season, has been relatively capped. And that's one thing with TreVeyon Henderson. There is going to be receiving upside. He would have all the opportunity in the world to take over that backfield in Cleveland immediately. Nick Chubb, probably gone. Unless they would happen to re-sign him, but he was not good here post-injury. So you have Jerome Ford, and I like Jerome Ford as a complimentary back, but TreVeyon Henderson, we saw what he, went through the 2 seasons that he tried, they tried to give him a little bit heavier of a workload. He suffered some injuries. I'm not saying, listen, the running back game, anybody can get injured, any position certainly, but especially running back. But I'm with Dan. I go Jonathan Taylor here. And the projected rookie pick, I have TreVeyon just a little bit lower than that 104 to 107 range. But if we get a nice combine, if we get a landing spot that TreVeyon Henderson is the presumed starter from pretty much day one, I think a lot of people are going to favor TreVeyon. But so I'm not hedging. My answer is Jonathan Taylor and the production that we've seen and the durability. He also has missed a few games. But even with Anthony Richardson at the helm, JT was productive. And hopefully we can get a little more into the receiving game. But give me JT as well. I'm with Dan.
Shout out to Scott Connor, who put out a 5 running back sales video that came out today on the DD Fantasy Football YouTube feed. Jonathan Taylor was on the list because he just doesn't catch a lot of balls. And so when you're looking at the opportunities that he gets, it is through the run game. And we know that could be a little bit boom or bust going from year to year. Does that lack of receiving upside change for you at all if it's like a full PPR league, or is it still Jonathan Taylor no matter what over Henderson?
For me, it's JT no matter what.
Love that he's not hedging. And I agree. I just think JT's the superstar power, the touchdown upside, rushing upside is just so much higher. And I don't have Henderson right now projecting as the next superstar. I think we all agree we like to have him. And if he goes in the second round, third round, he's going to be on our radar, but not quite at the Jonathan Taylor level.
Okay, for anyone watching, please like and subscribe to this video and leave a comment. The comments are huge. That's how everyone helps this grow. And so, leave your comment. Let us know. I'm personally on the TreVeyon Henderson side. I think the upside's just a little bit. No, so let me take that back. The upside is not higher with Henderson over Jonathan Taylor. You are getting a 4 years age discount at that point, and you can get some more receiving upside that I just don't believe we're going to see with Jonathan Taylor unless they just flat out say halfway through the season, Anthony Richardson, you nard our quarterback, and they go with whatever veteran, who knows who it would be at this point. I don't know, at this point it could be Carson Wentz again, who knows. But moving on, we're going to go wide receivers. Like I said, we're going quarterback last this time. So Matthew Golden is the guy that I had really low in my wide receiver tiers to start off. So we're going through rookies. I didn't have a lot of him, to be honest. I didn't have him ranked as high as what other people are. He's been in every single mock draft. He goes in the first round now. And so I've went back and watched him, and I'm understanding what people like about him. But in Ray's mock, he had him go and the 22nd pick to the Los Angeles Chargers. And before anybody goes, oh, that landing spot is terrible, we hate it, Jameson Williams played for the Lions. They had a higher run ratio than the Chargers did. So apples to apples, they play in the same kind of offense, but we have seen Jameson have the absolute boom games to where he is the guy who could get you 6 catches, 80 yards, but get you 2 touchdowns off those. Matthew Golden, on the other hand, I think he is like a Jameson light. I compare him more to a Zay Flowers. And we're looking at probably projected rookie pick 110, early second, I think is more than fair with Matthew Golden. So, John, do you like Jameson with the headaches that he kind of brings with him that I don't think are probably going to go away? Or are you going to take the reset and just take Matthew Golden at this point?
Oh boy, this is a little bit more interesting for me than the first one. And again, that wasn't anti-Henderson by any means, but I'm actually going to go with the vet. We're starting to see Jameson Williams come into his own. Yes, the floor is close to 0, but he gives you that high upside in week winning potential every single game. With Matthew Golden, yeah, we saw production here in 2024, just under 1,000 receiving yards. But from a market share perspective, we talked, Mitch asked me about my sheets here. From a market share perspective, he still isn't there for me, whether it's a college dominator, whether it's the sub 1.9 receiving yards per team pass attempt max. The NFL, they're going to probably be higher on this kid than I am right now from a fantasy perspective. So we have to start to listen to that. But I'm still going to go Jameson Williams, still only 24 years old. I know the Lions are losing Ben Johnson here, but I still think there's a lot of good things to come here in the near future from the Detroit Lions offense. So I'm going to go Jameson Williams here straight up.
All right, Dan. Like John alluded to, John Morton's the new OC with the Lions. We think everything's going to be kosher and everything's going to move along, but we have seen what it was like before Ben Johnson took over with the Lions before they had all this offensive firepower and what left a little bit wanting on the field. Are you still willing to go Jameson here? Or are you going to take the reset with Golden?
My alignment with JB is a little bit concerning early in the show, but I do see us aligned early, and I think we may be for a little bit tonight. We'll see how this goes. I'm interested to see as the offseason goes if I get a little bit more aligned with Ray and his take on Golden. He seems pretty high on him going to the Chargers there. And similar to when we spoke last week, Mitch, I think you were really high on Colston Loveland. And I says, hey, I want to see, as I get to spend more time on these rookies, even though he's a guy that I like early, you were really high on him. And I think actually since the last show, I've risen a little bit, doing a little bit of homework there. So here, I like that you bring up the points of JMO. There's definitely areas of concern, but I think to me, the talent is off the charts more than Matthew Golden. Not that Matthew's not a talented receiver. If he goes to the Chargers, it makes me think that he would be coming in there as a receiver 2 behind Ladd McConkey.
Oh yeah.
Now I know JMO's not the receiver 1 necessarily in Detroit, but he is a top weapon there. And I don't think anything's going to go off. I think they want to keep building on that offense that they have. I think there's a little understudy here. They're ready to just build off what they have. It's the in between the ear stuff to me that we discover this year is the reason it took him this long to foresee the Alabama talent that we knew he had. So I just think I'm going to bet on him staying on the rails. I think he's got some good mentors there in Sun God. The players love him. The coaches like him. They're rooting for him. They know what they could get out of him. I'm going to roll the dice on that versus Golden, who I see a little bit. I see him a tier below JMO. Like, I'm just not there. I think we talked last week too. I have guys that I'm not sure I don't like more than him, and like Luther Burden and the kid from Ohio State. So to jump him over JMO here, I just can't do it.
Yeah, the reason why I brought this one up is I'm constantly seeing the 110, 111 go ahead of Jameson in startups. Mm-hmm. And I think that's really close to where Golden's going to go. But we're going to bring up another. This one is going to trip you guys up a little more, and it better, because flat out, Emeka Egbuka is amazing. Like, to me, he is JSN legit, and everyone uses that. But to me, he's more of a Chris Godwin. Like, I think he is that good of a prospect. Ray has him going for the last few mocks, and we've seen it in other mocks that John and I have a new mock draft coming out this Friday on the channel, to where we looked at Matt Miller's landing spots. Exact same thing. We have Emeka Egbuka going to the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Steelers need help. They just do. We're putting up against a DJ Moore, to where buying into the Ben Johnson thing a little bit. Maybe DJ Moore will be the slot guy. Maybe it'll be Rome Odunze. Who really knows? Maybe they bring back Keenan Allen to play in the slot. Kind of leaves a lot of windows open there for DJ Moore. But with Egbuka, I wanted just to state this point real quick. I know everyone has in their mind that the Steelers are this rush first team. I think Tomlin is willing to do whatever is best for the offense, because we've seen Ben Roethlisberger throw like 650 times in a season before, and that was when Ben Roethlisberger was 40 years old. So I don't think that's just because they're a rushing team now doesn't mean they're going to be in the future. I think they could actually do a little bit with that quarterback situation right now, because we don't know who the quarterback's going to be right now. They've came out and said they'll probably bring back either Russ or Justin Fields, but probably not both. And I bet they try to upgrade that situation a little bit. So, Dan, don't go with the vet again, man. Don't do it. Go with Egbuka.
I love the peer pressure you're putting on me right now, but hey, you said this was a non-hedging episode, so I'm gonna stay with conviction here and go with my show notes. Although I love Egbuka a lot more, have him much higher than Golden. I have DJ Moore a lot higher than JMO, and you guys know I'm high on the Caleb Williams, Ben Johnson situation in that offense. DJ Moore is young enough, even though he's an old head. I know JB says, hey, I like competing right now. Yeah, if they were old to the point where I want to get them off my roster, that shiny toy and that mid first round pick would be more attractive to me, mid high. But the talent in the DJ Moore, man, I'm taking that production. I'm buying the Chicago offense, and I would take the veteran again here, because the veteran at 28, I think, still has some good years in him, man. I really love DJ Moore. I do want to win now, and the Pittsburgh situation, I mean, we're also based on that landing spot. Arthur Smith is still the offensive coordinator. I don't care if it's Russ or Justin Fields as the quarterback. That doesn't really make me feel good about that passing game. So like it. I know the Steelers need help at receiver. I think he could be a focal point in the offense. I like the kid's talent, but I would go DJ Moore.
All right, John. Taking Travis Hunter out of the wide receiver profile, right? Just because we don't know how he's going to line up. I'm pretty sure you're locked in with me that Egbuka is your wide receiver 3.
That's correct.
Are you really going to be willing to take DJ Moore over him?
Man, the peer pressure really is like Mitch is given the full court press here, dude. And at some point, I have to wonder if Mitch is in Emeka Egbuka's camp and like maybe he's like his secret agent or something. I don't know.
I was just gonna say, you guys are a lot higher on these vets, but I could tell you right now that out in the market, you're probably not going to get the 104 for Jonathan Taylor. You're probably not going to get the 110 for Jameson Williams. I'm very confident you're not getting the 108 for DJ Moore. But that's what all these rookies are. So if you're all leaning on the veteran upside, going contending away, that's fine. But we do know this rookie hype will continue to build.
For me, this is the first scenario where I have the two players tiered together. Now, you get the vet production in DJ Moore. You're buying into Caleb Williams growing into what we kind of expected him to be. And every opportunity is going to be there with Ben Johnson now as the head coach. And we'll see what happens with Keenan Allen, Rome Odunze, Cole Kmet. We're expecting those two to really start to gel with Caleb Williams. My thing with Emeka Egbuka, and it's strictly with this Pittsburgh landing spot. Yes, there are question marks surrounding the quarterback situation. Yes, we've seen Mike Tomlin and the Pittsburgh Steelers lean into a pass-heavy offense. Arthur Smith and Russell Wilson allegedly got into it after that Cincinnati Bengals game where the Steelers put up 40 points because Russell Wilson was changing the plays and audibling to pass plays. And if you look immediately following that game, production from a fantasy standpoint started to dip. Is Arthur Smith going to be pushing a run first narrative in 2025? My expectation is yes. And we don't have the quarterback situation solved in Pittsburgh. We don't know what's going to happen with George Pickens. I like Emeka Egbuka a lot. But because of this landing spot, we know in this situation, he is a Pittsburgh Steeler. I'm going to lean DJ Moore. You give me a lot of other landing spots because I have DJ Moore and the player of Emeka Egbuka tiered together. I would swing because, like Mitch said, it's going to be really hard out in the open market to get 108 for a DJ Moore. But in most situations, Emeka Egbuka is going to be tiered there. So I agree from that perspective. But I don't like the landing spot there. And if we're doing this as if that is a certainty, I don't want Egbuka with the Pittsburgh Steelers.
It's hard because you see this landing spot happen over and over
I know.
and over. I mean, I really think it's probably the most picked spot for Egbuka at this point, to where I could kind of agree with you guys on this one, to where you could see what a Ben Johnson offense can do with DJ Moore, especially if they put him in the Amon-Ra St. Brown role. And that's the role he should be in. I mean, we can have all the hype for whatever. DJ Moore fits that role perfect. And so if that's the case, there's talk going back 3 or 4 years ago. It was really when Amon-Ra was really young in his career, and someone asked Ben Johnson, like, hey, what are you looking for in your slot wide receiver? He's like, everything Amon-Ra has. He has to block. He has to run well. And we all know that DJ Moore can do those things. It's just wasn't the most efficient year last year with 140 targets, 98 receptions, and only got 960 yards out of it, which is kind of crazy as far as, receptions and yards gained. Moving ahead, though.
Oh, really quick, though.
Sorry, go ahead.
I'm
Go ahead.
looking it up. So that Cincinnati game, 414 yards for Russ. Right after, 158, 128, 217, 205, 148.
What team did they play where he had 400 plus yards? Refresh my memory again. Who'd you say it was?
It was the Bengals.
Gotcha.
And defense certainly started to be more competitive, but we're looking at 26 pass attempts, 22 pass attempts in a loss. 31. I mean, they played the Bengals second last game of the season. He put up 148 yards against that same defense.
We are comparing this if Russ is coming back as quarterback, though. I'm of the opinion
we know
probably not going to happen.
But we no, I doubt he comes back. But we know Arthur Smith is coming back.
Yeah. And then if it's not Russ, it's Fields, so that doesn't help the passing game.
They're not going to walk into 25 with Fields as their starting quarterback. Then
it's going to be Russ.
It's not going to happen. It's not going to be Russ. Believe it or not, there's more than 2 quarterbacks in the NFL who can play quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I know that would be weird. That's it. That's it. Or maybe Matthew Stafford shows up. Just saying. He's on the block. Okay. This one was tough. So I wanted Luther Burden and Egbuka are tiered like back to back with everybody has them tiered with each other, right? I like Burden a little bit more. I have him projected between the 106 and the 108 in the rookie draft. But I didn't want to pick through the same pool of wide receivers I was trying to pick through for Egbuka. So here's the scenario this time. I'm adding a little tangent on this. It's Luther Burden for T. Higgins But let's say it's for the 106. This is for the 106 spot. You are getting the 206 with it. Or if it's the 107, you're getting the 207 with it, right? This person is adding their second round pick to move from Burden up to Higgins. And for anyone who's watched our 2-round mock drafts, there is some very, very good running back talent in the middle of the second round, to where this is a decent asking price for T. Higgins. T. Higgins, in my opinion, it looks like he's going back to the Bengals. I mean, they're coming out with hype videos still, and T. Higgins is part of the hype videos. I just don't think they would do it if they don't think that he's going to come back. But Luther Burden, pick 25 to the Houston Texans. I think it's a great spot. There is no Tank Dell next year. Diggs has already said he doesn't know if he's coming back. Nico Collins is an absolute stud, but they need someone to do the dirty stuff across the middle. And Luther Burden can do all that. He is an extremely physical wide receiver who I think fits that team very, very well. And I think with Nick Cali coming over from the Rams, their new offensive coordinator, like, I think he could fix that extremely vanilla scheme that Houston's ran the last pretty much 2 years. But let's go with we'll go back to Dan. I forget who we went with last, but that's fine. Dan.
It's actually JB's turn, but I'm willing.
All right, fine. We'll go JB. All right. T. Higgins, who we all love, or Luther Burden with the second.
I love T. Higgins. We've talked about him countless times for the 24 season, referring back to the War Machine and the Trinity tool over there at DD Fantasy Football. With that said, I love Luther Burden. I think, and I said this, when we get out 2-3 years from now, and this isn't necessarily an indictment on Ted McMillan, but more a pro Luther Burden approach, I think there's a very good chance he leads this incoming rookie class in fantasy points, in dynasty value 2-3 years out. So with that said, give me Luther Burden the pick. I know, just like Egbuka, you talk about it like if Xavier Restrepo, he's going to be another one as well. But Luther Burden, he runs primarily out of the slot, but he checks almost every box from an analytical perspective. He gives you a career best in receiving yards per team pass attempt over 3.2. He gives you the early breakout age. He struggled a little bit in 2024. You look at the raw numbers there on the screen, 676 yards, and you're looking at that, and that's trash. But he dealt with some injuries. He dealt with a challenging quarterback situation. One of the, statistically speaking, one of the worst quarterbacks in the SEC. And I love T. Higgins, but we see with the amount of injuries he has had piling up, how vulnerable his value is. It is a slippery slope when it comes to T. Higgins, and it's because of his history. Do we know where he's going to be in 25 and beyond? No, we don't. We'll see if it is in Cincinnati, but give me the extra second, whether I want to package that up elsewhere, whether I want to use that on a running back like Mitch alluded to, the extremely deep running back class here in 25. But give me Luther Burden landing in Houston with the 25th overall pick. They need firepower and they need weapons outside of Nico Collins. He's going to be just that for CJ Stroud in that offense.
Dan, with T. Higgins, he's only played in 16 games once in the last 4 seasons. But when he's on the field, he always produces. How do you feel about this one?
Yeah, we definitely made this harder by adding the second round pick to it, because without that second pick, I feel like we're doing this exercise where we keep upping the rookie, but we're upping the veteran as well there. There's part of me that says if Cincinnati could level up their offensive line, and he does resign there, boy, is that juicy. If Cincinnati can't pay him, even though Joe Burrow's, politicking for him and wants him there, and he goes somewhere else, he's going to get uber paid. But we don't want him to go to a bad landing spot. So there's definitely some concern and some risk. Luther Burden, I'm with you. I'm aligned with you, Mitch, as far as third receiver, or by both of you here, third receiver in the class. I think we all believe that quarterback and injuries is a 2, maybe for you say, is that a 2, JB? If Travis
that
Hunter
was a 2.
I wasn't sure if it was a 1 or a 2.
It wasn't a pro Texas or for wrestling
horns.
fans, the Wolf Pack, too sweet. Luther Burden's too sweet. That's who's too sweet.
Yeah. So because it's 2 if we're looking at Hunter as a DB. But I guess I'm still in that kind of discovery phase. Or right now, if I'm trading a big time asset, I want my first round draft pick to be at least 106. But that's just today. Normally, as we get them another month or so into this and we get more information, I get a little bit more pleased with the 107 or 108 because I have enough information maybe that says, hey, Luther Burden's healthy. He is the guy. He belongs in that upper echelon. With the second round pick, I could see Luther here. So if I'm in a gambling mood a little bit, being that I'm getting the second, I will, for the first time, get away from the veteran. But not easily, though. You could regret that later on.
This one was really tough for me, so I tried to figure out a higher and wide receiver because I feel if I picked Nico Collins, you guys probably wouldn't have went Nico Collins.
I would have.
Dan.
Yeah.
And so I try to fade just a cut underneath that. Let us know in the comments. Let us know which one you would take here because I think this is the closest. Would you take Burden in the second or T. Higgins? But that leads us to the quarterback.
It's funny you say this is the closest,
but
I think the one we're going to get the most hate for is Jonathan Taylor and TreVeyon Henderson.
Yes. Oh, I completely agree. I know how people
feel. I think we're going to get some hate on Jameson and Matthew Golden. People
you guys will. I won't get it. I'm just hosting this time. I get to sit back and be like, look, this is what these two think. Okay, so this one was really fun because Ray had the Jets trading up to get Shedeur Sanders. And I know that offensive line is kind of not great, but I don't think it's as bad as everyone let it out to be. But they still have Breece Hall. They have Braylon Allen. They have Garrett Wilson. I mean, they have enough playmakers to where a rookie could go in and do well. And then you have Tua on the other side. And we know the coaching staff is kind of on the hot seat, but we know what Tua is at this point. And while... One sec. Sorry, I have been fighting a cold all day long. But with Tua, we know who he is. This last season, he had another concussion, and everyone was worried if he's coming back. He said he's coming back. But Dan, how do you feel about this one?
Yeah, this is a fun one here. And hey, we know they're out on Aaron Rodgers. I think we know they have O-line issues, the Jets. But I think one of the key moves for the Jets this offseason, at least if you're a Jets fan, you're hoping, is they got a new general manager. So this is a team that's kind of built backwards. You know, they draft for fantasy football. Hey, Breece Hall and Garrett Wilson, and we love this, but we can't protect any of this to make it work. Now, hopefully, a new GM comes and went in with a game plan of saying, hey, we got to be able to protect this quarterback. And if he could build the O-line, he's got all the other weapons. I like Shedeur. So he's definitely a guy I'm in on. Now, today, if I looked at my rankings, I would have Tua ahead of him. And if I'm a contender, maybe I want to ride that for a little while. But if I could get an extra asset, that'd be nice. If I can't, though, I would take Shedeur Sanders here. Tua, to me, is an old 27. I think he's able to withstand those concussions because he is still young. He loves football. You can see the passion in him. He wants to still be out there and playing. But I'm nervous holding Tua on my rosters. And I've got a couple Tua shares, and I'm struggling to unload them. And I got to be careful of unloading them because I don't want to give them away. I think he could have another good year in Miami. Tyreek Hill's happy now. Okay, he's feeling bad for his frustrations there. So he's got Tyreek Hill. He's got Waddle. He's got Achane. They've got a draft and free agency coming up. There's reasons to be encouraged about Tua and Shedeur. We've talked quarterbacks, guys. This isn't the quarterback class that blows us out of the water. But if I'm building a dynasty roster, I'm going to go with the healthy prospect that a team's going to build around for the next 5 years, knowing that I'm still trying to get off Tua, and I don't want to get stuck with a guy that's another concussion away from missing a lot of time.
John, Tua's best year, he had 30 touchdowns, about 4,500 yards. That was back in 2023. But that was it. Like, he had 30 touchdowns. There was no rushing upside. He tried to run a little bit more this last season, which is kind of funny after everything. But we know what he is. How do you use a veteran like that, but compare it to where everyone kind of says, hey, Shedeur Sanders is just a pocket passer. This is just what he is. But we do know Tua is an NFL legit starting quarterback who could probably, injuries aside, start in the NFL for another 5 to 10 years easily, to where our hope is Shedeur Sanders can do that. How do you balance both of those?
Yeah, that's it. In a situation like this, it's not like we're comparing Tua to a quarterback that's really willing and able. I know he didn't necessarily do it a ton in college, not to say he couldn't with Shedeur Sanders being able to run, but I don't think we're going to be labeling him as a dual threat quarterback anytime soon. Now, because of that, he does have the limited ceiling. Now, this was a point of contention on a previous episode with me and Mitch. He wasn't understanding where the Michael Penix love was coming from. And I quote, Shedeur Sanders' floor is higher than Michael Penix. I think, now this isn't about Michael Penix, but I think that floor, it's low for Shedeur Sanders. Now for
It's
Tua,
low for Michael Penix. That was my only point. Go ahead.
Now for Tua, the floor is he gets busted up again and he's out of the NFL. And I know it's going to be a discussion until he goes several years without a concussion or he ultimately retires because of it. So it's going to be discussed constantly. But I go back to the ceiling discussion because you look at both Tua and Sanders. We know that neither of them are going to give you a ton in the rushing game, especially Tua. But we know how good Tua can be in that system when he is on, when his wide receivers are healthy. And that Jets situation, we talk about stability. We talk about dysfunction, in the words of a wise man named Dan. But that's the New York Jets. And like, I know they got Garrett Wilson. I know they have Breece Hall. We'll see what happens with Davante Adams. But I prefer Tua here, despite the injury risk, because again, we see what he can do in that system. But here's my one hedge. I get one. I could get a plus with Tua for that pick.
You're not. No, there's no hedge here. And I have a follow-up. So maybe say who you're going to take.
Tua.
And then
I'll take Tua straight up.
Okay. Now let's take Shedeur Sanders completely out of it. Let's say you just have the 103. Are you taking the 103 or Tua?
103.
See that?
And I don't believe in Mike McDaniel. I know we talk about the Jets and their dysfunction. They get a new general manager and they hire Aaron Glenn. I really have a good gut feeling about Aaron Glenn. You listen to that guy talk and you listen to Mike McDaniel talk. I know Mike McDaniel has an offensive mind, but I do not think he's a good head coach. I just think the Dolphins could be in for a little bit of a downward spiral. Like I think we saw that best season of Tua that Mitch mentioned statistically. So there's a little bet on here of one. I think Sanders could be going into a better situation. We talked about Tua's health, and JB, Mitch hit it on the head there, man. That draft pick 103. When you put it in 103 terms, I don't care who I get at 103. The options are plentiful.
If it's the 103, I'll take 103. But you're talking about Aaron Glenn. Isn't this a very similar conversation to when Robert Saleh took over? I feel like I could pull some sound bites. Oh, like he's got it together. He's gonna turn this organization around. He's a leader of men. He brings that mentality that we want.
Not for me. You didn't hear that.
Here we are.
Yeah, yes, there is a little bit of a pushback. I think Saleh was a better defensive coordinator than what Aaron Glenn is, but I think Aaron Glenn is made to be a head coach more than what we've seen from Saleh.
Competent. Have you heard the stuff that's come out of Saleh's mouth? And I think there was a hype train, JB. You are right. There was a hype train. I don't know where it came from, but I don't see it.
But yes, to answer the question, 103. I know the market value specifically for that 103 It is higher than Tua. There is a ton of risk. I'm on Dynasty Daddy right now, and I'm seeing trades in the 108 range for Tua.
I was just gonna say, let's change it all the way. I put this between the 103 to the 106 projected pick. Anyone who's watching this, on the radio feed, podcast feed, come watch it on YouTube. There's graphics for all of this. Let's say it's the 106, John. You taking the 106, or are you going to take Tua?
If it's the 106, I'll take Tua.
All right.
I would straight up. I'll take Tua.
So
if you're in any of my leagues and I have the 106 and my quarterback situation is a little murky, come to me. Mitch, I got to put the asterisk because
I know
I'm going to have a quarterback room of Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, and somebody's going to want to make the move. And I don't want to invest that much in my quarterback 3 if at all possible.
Yeah, you probably do have a few 106s out there too, so that's fair. Okay.
All 106s across the board.
All right, Dan. Was going to start with you for the 278th time. I looked ahead. Looks like the middle of July is going to be our 300th episode. Final thoughts after the Super Bowl, going into Dynasty season. What you got for us?
Keeping it simple here, but it's just in some ways my favorite and not favorite time of the year at the same time. It's nice to come up for air. We've all been grinding forever throughout the season, and now the Super Bowl is past us, and it's officially go time. I don't know what you just did with those screens. You made me really skinny there. There we go.
Wait, go back to those skinny screens. That was good.
I don't think that's the one he was looking
this
for.
One.
We're feeling slender here. You have to be on YouTube to be understanding what we're talking about there. But for everybody, this is the time where, hey, diving into the film and getting ready, for April. But in between then, we'll be keeping an eye on February is just kind of come up for air and watch a lot of film. And then March, it's franchise transition tag time, March 4th. Free agency starts March 10th to 12th. And that's when it really gets fun because now that's going to help our projections for that April draft as well, knowing what teams they're going to do. I think March 12th, the trading period opens. So March is a big month we're gearing up for. We'll get as much homework here on Dynasty Theory in February as we can. So stay tuned for more.
John?
Oh, I don't like having to have a final thought here, but I do have one, gentlemen, and it goes in line with our conversation tonight. With all of these situations where it's veteran or rookie pick, the biggest thing is understanding your league dynamic and understanding your league market. We're all in those leagues where people are a little bit more willing to invest in veterans, even though it's, the middle of the offseason or beginning of the offseason. But in most leagues, especially this time of year, everybody's going to want those rookie picks. So while we're discussing these ranges and these values, there always is that gray area, and maybe things are pushed up a little bit higher or a little bit lower. But knowing your league dynamic, I think, is so critical, and your league mates best. So while we can sit here and go through these players and these different draft picks and discuss these ranges, we don't know your league mates. We don't know the trade market in your league. So I just think it's very important. That's one huge piece of the puzzle whenever you're going through these trades. So don't forget to keep that in mind.
So to finish it up, please join the community at ddfantasyfootball.com. I have my rookie rankings in there. John has his tiers. All three of us are in there talking football all the time. Scott Connor's in there. Shane's in there. Ray's in there all the time. Everyone is in there to try to build this community and make it the best one out there. And it already is. But please join. I guarantee you're going to like it. Use code Theory if you want some money off. But please like, subscribe, comment, tell these two how wrong they were. I'd appreciate it. Hey, on that note, thanks everybody. We'll see you next week.